Maneater is marketing genius. The game sells itself well. It's full of hashtags, bright and colorful locations, cartoonish action, wacky characters. All of that adds up to something that can be very appealing to the human eye. It grabs your attention. And that's exactly what the marketing for this game has done. They coined their own term, Shark PG, and it's on Twitter, and you can go look at it. It's hard not to see this and want to play it. The premise is unique. Playing as an animal in itself is pretty rare. Sure, there's the obvious Echo the Dolphin comparison, if people even remember that one. I'd bet a lot of money that a mediocre Jaws tie-in exists. There's Okami, more meme-worthy entries, Goat Simulator, Untitled Goose Game. There's that game where you play as a spider in the desert that I thought was surely a fever dream, but apparently it's real. It's called Deadly Creatures. It came out for the Wii. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that game before. This small collection proves that furry-friendly games do exist if you go looking for them, but certainly in my experience, most of what I play has me inhabiting the body of a boring old human or the occasional lingerie-clad battle android. So this shift in perspective, combined with its bombastic presentation, made me want to try this game. So that's exactly what I did. I played Maneater, and I completed it. Like, really completed it. Got all the achievements, completed every area, got 100% in this game. So these are my thoughts on Maneater as a game. From the very first moments, this game has you wide-eyed going, what is happening? It's hard to keep up with. It's so bombastic is the only word I can think of really to describe it. It is loud in so many ways. After that marketing push, the color, the idea, the trendy hashtags, after all that hooks you, the game reels you in. I'm sorry, I had to do it. It's like trashy reality TV. You can't take your eye off of it. And it wants to be. It leans into it. From the off, you meet this aquatic bounty hunter, fisherman TV host guy named Scaly Pete. And let's just say he's not a fan of our sharky aspirations.
Now, how you gonna coexist with that shark, huh? Shark just wanna do one thing. That's kill you, eat you, and you out. What I do, I consider a sacred honor. Kill them all if I could.
That trashy reality TV show feel extends to the game itself, complete with a title sequence and all the butt rock and network TV hashtags that entails, and a commentary ripped straight from any of those Blue Planet documentaries.
Since the mid-20th century, an increasing number of oceanographers have warned about uncontrolled development of the sea.
You're dropped off in the deep end as a high-level super shark with the ability to triple jump out of the water, chew through boats, jump out on the beach, and chase people across the sand before you eat them, only to have all that power stripped from you like is so common in games. But I think that it works here. I think it's very smart here because the next few hours are going to have you doing a lot more of this than this. So you start with all the fun stuff and then you lose it and spend the next few hours eating 10 fish, attacking a boat, and finding collectibles for experience, which quite frankly is not the fun part at all. But you do this over and over and over in the first couple areas until you are finally large enough to dish out some punishment. As you progress, you unlock mutations that give you different abilities and change the appearance of your shark in some pretty cool ways. I actually did really like this system, and I really liked the aesthetic changes it brought to the shark. You can really mix and match. You can make some cool loadouts. It is an interesting system, but it doesn't warrant much explanation. It's essentially a skill tree. You just unlock your abilities through quests in the world, finding landmark locations, so collectibles essentially, and doing particular quest lines essentially as well. And it acts as the game's skill tree to get you to have new abilities and stuff, but you're not stuck with one. You can change between the loadouts. So I enjoy that. I think it works. This is why the game's allowed to call itself an RPG. And let me be clear, it's not. But almost no game that calls itself an RPG actually has the player agency that allows you to role play. So RPG is kind of a dead term, really. But that's not really relevant, so I'll let it go. But you don't make decisions. You don't do anything like that. I don't think anybody's looking at those trailers and the gameplay and thinking that this is going to be an RPG. It's an action game, really, just with a skill tree. After the game stops being a Feeding Frenzy remake, where you go around and you eat smaller fish until you're a bigger fish, I found myself enjoying it so much. Once you start interacting with the infamy system, the game gets so much better. This infamy system acts as sort of like a GTA wanted system where you eat some humans and then they'll send waves of shark hunters after you. As you fight them off and destroy their boats, your infamy rank goes up. It's kind of like a second level system. And then they send more difficult enemies to stop your reign of terror. By the end, you're in these pretty good sized fights where you're managing multiple aspects of combat. You're dealing with divers with harpoon guns. There's multiple boats. Some of the boats have gunmen on them. Others have people that throw dynamite at you and explosives that you can eat and hurt yourself. So you have to watch out for that in the middle of combat. The key difference from Grand Theft Auto's wanted system, though, is that your infamy never goes back down. Once you're a rank 6, you're always a rank 6. And once they introduce an enemy, they're every time. So once you get to, I think it's like rank 4 or something like that, then divers show up. Every time you kill some humans, there's always divers. There's always bigger boats. Once you reach that rank that introduces new boats and things like that, they'll be sent to you every single time. This system leads to the most opportunities to fulfill the game's power fantasy that it portrays, to be that badass super shark. You fight the humans on their boats, managing the chaos of the divers and the dynamite. You kind of have to use guerrilla tactics because they can just destroy you. You go in, you chomp a boat a few times, you can run away, you come back, you finally destroy a boat. You kind of keep track of where the bodies are for when your health is low. You can go back and they'll just hang there in the water and you can go back and eat them for health packs. You essentially make your own health packs through the combat. You're flying out of the water, grabbing people right off the decks of the fishing boat like it's Jaws, like it's awesome. This is where the game excels. Truly, this is the fun of Maneater. If you play this game, do not let the first few hours defeat you. The bayou and the lake, they really are the worst parts of the game. You're just not having that much fun in them. It's kind of a slog, but it gets so much better. So just try it. Get through the bayou, get through the lake area, and the game really opens up. It gets so much better, especially once your shark reaches the salt water. Out here in the briny deep, you'll engage in the most diverse combat you face in this game. At this point in the game, your infamy is higher. You're facing more complicated ships, bigger ships, more powerful ships. Eventually, some will have electric fields you have to disable so you don't take constant damage while chomping on them, along with all the divers and the smaller boats you can handle. The Scaly Pete fights and the last few infamy rank bosses are truly fun to experience. Even the hostile animals you face here are more enjoyable. In the early areas, you have the Muskellunge and the Barracuda. They just kind of nibble at you while you're trying to bite them, and they don't provide really any fulfilling combat. The alligators only expand on this by catching you and doing the death roll, which isn't super exciting. It's not that much fun. You just kind of do a quick time event. It's not super engaging gameplay. But the orcas in the Gulf, they can knock you around. They can use their body to throw you out of the water. They still thrash you, which is not engaging gameplay, but they do at least have that added ability to kind of move you around, make you think a little bit differently, dodge their attacks. That's really about as deep as the fish combat gets. The orcas are easily the most in-depth wildlife fights, so I have to give them some credit, but not much. And that's the real problem with this game. The combat is so shallow. It always boils down to dodge the fish or whale or gator or whatever, then stun it with a tail whip, then go to town on it. Just mash right trigger. It's not super thoughtful. You don't have to put a lot of energy into thinking about how you're going to approach a fight. Even the apex predators don't provide much more. They're just higher health versions of the same enemies you've been fighting. The boat combat is essentially skim the surface, evade around until you land next to a boat, then bite a couple times, rinse, repeat, game over. Like even the boss fights with Pete, even those infamy fights that I do enjoy, you are essentially just evading around, staying above the water, just trying to stay out of the way of the bullets, and then just get a few bites in until you get your ability, and then you can kind of take out the boats directly. You don't have to worry about your health too much. As an idea, though, Maneater is genius. I mean, you can't help but like the idea of this. It is different, which is something that we don't often see in gaming, but it's not as common as we like. I mean, a lot of games have really boiled down to shooters, or you got your fantasy game, and there's not a lot of variety in that space. It's nice to see a team take risks, take the risk of making a weird game, but the execution leaves something to be desired. There's just not quite enough here. It's not quite deep enough to warrant a full price tag, but that's one of the things going in this game's favor is that it isn't a full price game. And just about the time that you are falling out of love with it, it's over. So you get to enjoy a nice middle market game, and there's a huge gap in video games for that middle market kind of double A game. There's a lot of great indies, there's a lot of great AAA games, but there's not much that fills that $40 kind of lower budget gaming experience. And this does a really good job of that. So my final thoughts on Maneater. It's loud, it's pretty clever in some ways, it's pretty funny sometimes, and it's definitely worth a shot, even if it doesn't live up to that first 10 minutes. So thank you for watching. If you watched the whole video, I really appreciate it. If you want to see more stuff like this, I think I'm going to be doing some more kind of video essay review type things on this channel. If you want to see that, subscribe. Now I'm going to give some stuff I couldn't really fit into the video, just some problems I encountered throughout the game, kind of glitches and whatnot. The game mostly ran pretty well on my Xbox One X. No major issues I encountered. There was some weird stuff with the sunlight through the water when looking directly at the sun. Nothing major, not game breaking. Sometimes when you transfer between areas, it just jumps to a loading screen, and then other times it doesn't. I don't understand why this happens. Sometimes you'll cross right back and forth between two areas, and it'll go into a loading screen like, 2 times, 3 times even. And then other times you can just go back and forth and it doesn't matter. I'm not really sure why that happens, but it wasn't game breaking. The game's loading screens were not overly long. And then I had a weird thing when fighting like only hunted mako sharks, so the ones for the quests that you have to kill for the quests, the more powerful versions. They would fight for a bit, and then you would be normal combat, and then they would just like click, go back into their passive state. But when they're in their passive state and you try and go at them, like I couldn't hit them, I couldn't bite them. Like they'd just be swimming, and I'd try and swim up behind them and go for them, and you just like couldn't connect. So fighting those in the golf course area was just a huge pain in the ass. You would whip them with your tail to stun them, and then you could attack, but they never fought back again. And I have some footage of that here as well. And that happened as well with the apex sperm whale in the last area. At the beginning of the fight, he attacked, but then he just stopped like halfway through and just kind of sat there and let me eat him. I don't know what happened there. I'm not a game designer, but just letting you know the few problems I had with this game, and most of them aren't even problems. It's just the mako sharks and the sperm whale. I'm not really sure why that happened. Thanks for watching.